Welcome, everybody, to the NFL Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The NFL Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu. Make sure you go use the promo code TRUTH100 to get a cashback bonus on your first deposit. I am your host for the NFL Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, let me welcome from the FF Face-Off, my co-host, Anthony Cervino. How you doing, Anthony?
What's going on, Mike?
Not much, but a lot, all at once. We're going to preview the Chargers-Raiders Thursday night game tonight here in a little bit. Let's start off, let's look at news in the NFL, and the 49ers already are going to be missing they're getting players back, but they're going to be missing kicker Robbie Gould, who's dealing with a strained quad. He's expected to miss Monday night's showdown with the Seattle Seahawks. This is a big player to be missing, I think, right here. You there, Anthony? Oh, we lost Anthony.
And
oh,
no, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're bringing in free agent kicker Chase McLaughlin.
Gould's going to be a big loss because he's one of the more reliable kickers in the game. And we see with New England, since they've lost Gostowski, they've already gone through two kickers. And I think you run your offense, especially on fourth down, a little bit different when you don't trust your kicker.
Yeah, and the 36-year-old Gould has only been 13 of 20 on field goals this year, which is a career low 65%. McLaughlin filled in for 4 games with the Chargers this season, making 6 of 9 field goal attempts from week 5 through 8 with a long of 50 yards. So, I mean, it's not like I think it's a huge difference, but it's a huge difference in the last minute of a game where Robbie Gould has been pretty golden for most of his career.
Yeah, and I think in a game like this one coming up against the Seahawks, where it could come down to a field goal, we'll see, if this is going to hurt the 49ers.
I don't think it will come down to a field goal. I really think the 49ers are going to handle them, but we'll see. It's still a divisional matchup. Alvin Kamara's nearly month-long absence is coming to an end. Saints coach Sean Payton told reporters Thursday he expects Kamara to play Sunday against divisional rival the Atlanta Falcons. So the Saints just get richer.
Yeah, and, the Saints didn't skip a beat, whether it was Drew Brees, Alvin Kamara, both of them out. They kept winning in, mostly in dominant fashion. The defense is really starting to come together. So we'll see how far the Saints could really go.
Yeah,
and I think Brees being out actually helped the Saints because last year and even maybe the year before that, we've seen Brees kind of slow down, maybe because of his age, as the season got older. So maybe him missing all that time in the first half is going to keep him fresher longer.
Well, plus you found a legitimate quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater if something was to go wrong, which always helps out. But Latavius Murray has played great in Kamara's absence.
Yeah, I think Latavius Murray has earned a little bit more of a role than he was initially getting. Because when Mark Ingram was there, Ingram was getting a lot more touches than Murray was through his first couple of games. I think now that he has earned the trust of the team and Sean Payton, maybe he gets that type of Mark Ingram role.
All right, the Washington Redskins, maybe they're a little more dangerous now. Darius Geis will be back Week 11 to play against the New York Jets, which they probably don't need him for that game. But with Bill Callahan taking kind of a run-first approach here, you have him and alongside Adrian Peterson. It could help out Dwayne Haskins a lot if Haskins ends up being the starting quarterback.
Yeah, I think it is going to help Haskins. I think Haskins is going to be the one who ends up starting after their bye in a couple of weeks. It's a game against the Jets, and this is one of those games where if you want to get Dwayne Haskins' confidence up, you put him in against the Jets, you run the ball with Peterson and Geis, and just try to keep the game in front of Haskins a little bit.
Yeah, nothing spells confidence like playing the New York Jets right now.
I mean, a win's a win in the NFL.
Yeah, it doesn't
matter. In any sport.
Yeah. David Johnson looks like he will finally be back. The Arizona running back was emphatic Wednesday, saying he'd return after an ankle injury that had sidelined him the past 2 games. Um, this is a big get, too, because Cliff Kingsbury and the Cardinals have been better than what people thought, and they're missing Chase Edmonds, who's still absent with a hamstring injury. So you compare Johnson and Drake, and you have a pretty good backfield combination here.
Yeah, I really like what the Cardinals have with all three running backs. Talking when Chase Edmonds is healthy, but for the rest of the way, Drake and Johnson, Drake and Edmonds, whatever combination you put in there, I think they're going to be really effective running the ball, and that's going to help Kyler Murray.
All right, and the Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes.
And all three can catch out of the backfield. All three of them can do that well.
Which makes all three of them perfect for the air raid offense that they run, because that includes throwing the ball to the backside of the backfield. And I would think also, if you've got all three of them healthy, you could probably even line one of them up in the slot.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you can. You definitely can do that.
All right. Well,
I'd rather see Andy Isabella get a little bit more action in the slot right now, but I get what you're saying. They have a lot of good young receivers. Andy Isabella is one who is not getting on the field enough.
Yeah, but see, the thing is this. With both of them in the backfield, they're dangerous. If you motion one out and put them in the slot, it's going to create a bigger mismatch. Next up, Patrick Mahomes continues to press for an early return. Kansas City coach Andy Reid said the quarterback would practice Wednesday and the team would increase his workload a little bit more. So he had his first full practice. I think it's still day-to-day from looking at this. I still don't think there's any need to rush him back because Kansas City is pretty safe here when it comes to winning the AFC West. What's your take on this?
I don't know if I'm going to exactly say there's no need to rush him back because they are a better team with him, even though they can win with Matt Moore. But can you really afford to lose any more games?
Well, you can never afford to lose games.
Right, but the Raiders and the Chargers, the winner of this game tonight, you can make the case that they make a playoff run and maybe even a division run.
I don't think they make a division run, though. What's the Chiefs' record?
Why not?
6-3?
Why not? Right.
Yeah. So you're looking at a team that's 5-5 or a team that's 5-4.
I mean, the Chargers almost caught up to them last year when they had 2 losses, 1 loss.
Yeah. All right, I'll give you that, but it's also if you bring him back a little bit too early and he's not healthy, you may lose a game anyways.
Yeah, so it's a big decision for Andy Reid.
All right, and a big decision in Washington for Coach Callahan. The Redskins expected to start quarterback Dwayne Haskins after the bye. Do you think this is a good idea or a bad idea?
I mean, we just talked about it. I think it's a smart idea because of who they're playing, and I think it's going to boost his confidence a little bit if they win the game.
Yeah, the New York Jets do help that, but Case Keenum gives them a better chance to win right now, but I know you got to kind of play for the future here also.
Yeah, what are they going to win and do what? Cost themselves draft stock?
They might be able to catch the Cowboys. I had to take a shot at some point. Brandon Cooks has been ruled out for the Rams game in Pittsburgh. And I think this is a game in Pittsburgh that's extremely dangerous for the Rams because I don't think they like teams to get physical with them. Pittsburgh's going to get physical with them. And if they can't run the ball and they've got to throw it, no Brandon Cooks hurts this team.
Well, Brandon Cooks, it's not exactly he's not having the best year of his career. This is his second concussion. This could be a second concussion that ultimately cost him his season. Look what's going on with Sterling Shepard. The Giants are considering putting him on injured reserve after his second concussion he suffered back in like week 3 or 4. So I think this is really significant for Cooks. The Rams have some pretty good depth at receiver and Josh Reynolds, who played a lot last year when Cooper Kupp was out. So I think Josh Reynolds will step in and be fine. But you're talking about this game this week. I don't think they're going to be able to run the ball. So this is going to be all on Jared Goff and these receivers. And Gerald Everett, he's going to see a little bit more action as well at tight end.
Yeah, and if the Steelers had Big Ben, I would pick the Steelers. But I don't trust Mason Rudolph in this situation. But we'll talk about that more tomorrow when we talk about the games. Tonight, Thursday Night Football, we have a huge divisional matchup in the AFC West between the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers. The Chargers, I think, sit at 4-5. The Raiders are 4-4. The winner of this game has a legit shot. Hell, the loser of this game may have a legit shot in the AFC to make the wild card. and still an outside chance to catch the Chiefs. When I look at the Raiders, the thing that's been most impressive for me is the contributions from the rookie class that they have. Of course, Josh Jacobs leading the way with 740 yards, rushing, 6 touchdowns, while tight end Foster Moreau has added 3 touchdown catches. And then you've got Hunter Renfrow, who has 2. And Hunter Renfrow's a guy that I think people are really overlooking here. I think this was a guy that was underrated coming out of Clemson. And the thing that stands out to me was he had a huge hand a couple years ago in beating Alabama. He had a huge hand last year getting in there and beating Alabama. Hunter Renfrow's a guy that just makes plays.
Hi, I'm dropping off.
You there, Anthony?
Yeah, Hunter Renfrow is really a guy who just came on in the past couple of weeks, too.
Yeah, well, he was a rookie. Takes a little while to get, and I think the big thing is it takes a while for him and Derek Carr to kind of get into sync. When I look at the Chargers, I think the big thing that stands out to me here is the running game. And from scaling back their playbook to 5 or 6 running plays, I think they found some consistency in the run game. LA ran for 159 yards and averaged more than 4 yards per carry for the first time since week 4. Melvin Gordon, 80 yards last week, his best game since returning from a 2-month holdout, and his 4th straight game with 120 scrimmage yards or more. And when I look at this, you've also got Austin Eckler, who's effective. I think a lot of this game depends tonight on whether the Chargers can successfully run the ball, and really I think a lot of the rest of their season depends on that.
You know, Gordon finally looked like himself last week, and that's big because he's going to start getting more touches and more involved. I think it just took him a little bit longer to get his football legs back because all of the time missed holding out. But if they can get Gordon going, Eckler will still be involved. This Chargers team, you know, there's rumors that Derwin James could be making a return. That's really going to help this team try to make a playoff run. This isn't the first time. Usually they get going a little bit earlier. But, you know, there's still a lot of football left, a half a season to go.
Yeah, and I think another big one tonight, Derek Carr's played really well this year. I think Raider receiver Tyrell Williams, who, of course, will be enjoying the other side of this rivalry for the first time tonight. He was originally set to be the number 2 receiver alongside of Antonio Brown. And Williams, of course, with no Browns, has been given an even bigger role. And this is a guy that's kind of flown under the radar. He has 23 catches for 355 yards and 5 touchdowns despite missing 2 games with a foot injury. And I look for him to have a big game tonight against his former team.
You know, Tyrell, I think he's only had 1 game so far this year, which he didn't catch a touchdown. So he is clearly Carr's best target in the red zone. I also like, you know, Josh Jacobs to have a big game as well because he can catch the ball a little bit.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs is a stud. He's got to be one of the 3 or 4 guys that they have to talk about for the Offensive Rookie of the Year. He may be the guy right now, Anthony.
Really? Is there? I mean, who else is in the conversation?
That's kind of what I'm thinking. I mean, right now he's on pace to run for 1,400 yards. And if he does that, and this Raiders team's above 500, it'd be hard to ignore him here.
You know, are we going to talk about Kyler at all?
We could talk about Kyler, but the difference is this. If Josh Jacobs and the Raiders are all of a sudden in the playoffs, and he's ran for 1,400 or 1,500 yards, and the Cardinals have only won 6 games, even though Kyler Murray's had a really good season, I think it would be hard to ignore Josh Jacobs because if you take Josh Jacobs out of this offense, I don't think they're anywhere near a playoff team.
Yeah, you're talking about Arizona here.
No, I'm talking about Josh Jacobs, Oakland. I mean, all I'm saying is this. If Oakland makes the playoffs and Jacobs has ran for 1,400 yards, I think it would be hard to be to take the quarterback that goes 6-9-1.
I mean, I understand the theory, but it's a quarterback-driven league. I'm not saying that Josh Jacobs isn't deserving and probably the most deserving.
Well, how about this?
How impactful he is on a team.
This is all I'm saying in this. It's just like if I had to pick a Heisman Trophy candidate right now, I would take Chase Young because he's the best player. Now, just because I would take him doesn't mean that's who I believe would win it. if you know what I mean. I'm just talking about who I think deserves to win it. I
Right.
think
No,
Josh Jacobs.
then it's Jacobs.
Yeah, Josh Jacobs, I think, has had a huge impact on this team. Joey Bosa has 5.5 sacks in the last 3 games, and is second in the AFC with 8.5. He is trying to become the first player since Carolina's Charles Johnson to have at least 2 sacks in 3 straight road games. I think a big part of him coming on the last few weeks is Melvin Ingram coming back. And the reason I bring this up is not just because Bosa and Ingram have played well, but you've got a short week here, and the Raiders are dealing with injuries on the offensive line that leaves questions about who will even be available. Right tackle Trent Brown left the previous game with a knee injury in the first quarter and his status unknown. Center Rodney Hudson missed last week's game with a sprained ankle that may not be healed in time for him to play against the Chargers. And when you look at that, against Bosa, Ingram, and that front for the Chargers, this could be a long night for the offensive line. And if it is, maybe they can slow down Josh Jacobs and get to Derek Carr.
Yeah, the Carr's been protected pretty well this year, but, you don't play guys like Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa a lot. And if they can get to Carr, then the Chargers, with those running backs and everything else they have going, should win this game. And I think I'm going to pick the Chargers.
Yeah, I think I'm going to pick the Chargers just because of what I just said. I mean, if right tackle Trent Brown's not healthy or can't play, and Rodney Hudson, the center, is out, then I think you've got big-time issues on that offensive line. I think the Chargers will be able to get pressure on them. I think this is going to be a great football game. I think it's better than what we normally see on Thursday nights. I think the Chargers win a close game, something like 23-17, Anthony.
Yeah, this should be, fairly close. Thursday night's either a blowout or a low-scoring game, but I could see like a 27-24 with this one. Whoever has the ball last type of game.
All right, so when we look at that, if the Chargers win this game, are they suddenly a team you think is going to make the playoffs?
Yes. I think the winner of this game tonight makes the playoffs.
Well, it's hard to argue with because they'll be 500. And at 500, you win a game more than you lose the rest of the way. You're in pretty good shape. So,
yeah.
Baker
I
Mayfield,
think the winner of the game tonight goes to the playoffs.
Did you see this big story here with Baker Mayfield? He shaved his handlebar mustache because he didn't deserve it.
Wow.
Now
that's really what he should be focused on with a team that has 2 wins.
All right, so the other one is Dallas Cowboys defensive lineman Daniel Ross has been arrested on charges of possession of marijuana, unlawfully carrying of a weapon. So he's been on injured reserve with a shoulder injury. Is this a guy they're just going to cut now?
Probably.
Should they?
Probably. I mean, he hasn't done anything. He's probably a practice squad player at best.
All
I mean,
right.
what is? I follow the Cowboys more than anybody, and can't
You
even
don't know who he is?
Yeah.
Oh hell, you sound like a Colts fan. I know.
I mean, he's not going to play over Michael Bennett. He's not going to play over Malik Collins. He's not going to play over, Robert Quinn or Crawford or anybody else. Tank Lawrence.
All right.
It's insignificant.
We have a question on Twitter from Don, and he wants to know if you think, or how many of these 3 quarterbacks do you think will be playing in different places next year? Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Phillip Rivers.
Brady. Brady's the only one.
Brady stays put, or the only one that's leaving?
I think he's the only one that's leaving. I think if Breeze leaves, it's to retire.
How about this? I think Breeze retires if they win the Super Bowl. I think he does a little John Elway thing.
I think Breeze would have retired the past couple of seasons if he won a Super Bowl.
Yeah, because that second Super Bowl puts him up there in elite categories.
Yeah. So, I think Breeze, Breeze won't play for another team. Phillip Rivers, I think he has another year or 2 left. And Brady, if this is it, I think if the Patriots force him out, and there's a good chance of it, because reportedly Belichick really likes that rookie that they drafted, and he played a ton in the preseason,
Jarrett
more than
Stidham.
any other. Yep, more than any other Patriots backup. Played with the starters. If this is the next guy and they force Brady out, I can see him. Rumors are that he wants to play with the Los Angeles team, so maybe that is a way for the Chargers to move on from Rivers. But I can certainly see him going to a team like Tennessee with Vrabel.
Yeah, but a team like the Chargers or Tennessee, don't you kind of set yourself back if you bring in Tom Brady? Because I don't think Tom Brady's the kind of guy anymore that, unless you've got everything around him, I don't think.
But the Chargers got everything.
Well, the Chargers have everything but luck.
Right, and Brady changes that. Listen, Brady wants to show Belichick he can do it without him. Belichick wants to show Brady that he can do it without him.
And you know what I think happens? I think we learned that neither one of them can do it without the other one.
Possibly.
I think that's what that'll come down to. Because Jarrett Stidham, I think, could be a good quarterback, but he's not a guy that's taking you to a Super Bowl, and he's not a Tom Brady, even comparing him to Tom Brady in college. And I think what we'll learn here is the Patriots can still make it to the playoffs. And I'll tell you, wouldn't the NFL love that? The Los Angeles Chargers against the New England Patriots with Tom Brady against Jarrett Stidham and and Bill Belichick. Would that get you ratings?
What's that?
A Chargers Patriots AFC Championship game next year with Brady against Belichick.
Absolutely. You want to know what you want to know, like the dream scenario that would answer a lot of questions is if Rivers went to New England and Brady went to Los Angeles,
and then they played in the playoffs.
Then they played each other in the championship, AFC Championship.
I would favor, honestly, the Patriots then.
Really?
Yeah. Because I really like Anthony Lynn, but he's not Bill Belichick. And Phillip Rivers, as crazy as it may sound, I think may have more left than Tom Brady right now. I mean, when I watch Tom Brady, I don't see what I used to see. And that could be partially because of the offensive line in front of him, though.
Yeah, the offensive line, and they're not running the ball like they normally would.
All right, we have another question now. If you want to ask a question, at The Grueling Truth. This is Peter from Cleveland, Ohio. He wants to know who the Browns will hire as their next head coach.
I mean, they hired Freddie because of, on Baker's word. Maybe they'll just promote Baker and let him do it all.
Like LeBron James did with the Cavaliers.
I would
say this. I would say Mike McCarthy.
I was just going to say that.
Because he didn't get an offer in 2019. There's a lot of former Packer front office people in that Browns office. And if Cleveland decides to make a change because the guy had hired before this season was too inexperienced, I think common sense to me says the Browns look for somebody with a whole bunch of experience. I don't think it would work out. I don't think Mike McCarthy is that good of a coach, but he's better than Freddie Kitchens.
Who was Baker's coach in college?
Lincoln Riley.
Well, could it be Lincoln Riley?
If they could pay him enough. I mean, it's going to take a lot of money to get Lincoln Riley out of Oklahoma.
Because you keep matching Lincoln to the Cowboys. Well,
I match Lincoln to anybody that wants to be successful. Lincoln Riley is the best offensive coach in the country right now over anybody. I mean, the offense that you see the Cardinals run comes from Lincoln Riley. The offense the Browns try to run comes from Lincoln Riley. That offense will work because it's an air raid, and a lot of people equate that with the run and shoot. But the version of the air raid that Lincoln Riley uses also uses a tight end and a fullback. And that is real football. And a lot of what we get nowadays, if you watch Sean McVay, or he doesn't really use the tight end a whole hell of a lot in L.A., does he?
Well, he's been because they can't run the ball as effectively, so we're seeing a little bit more of Gerald Everett, and I think with Cook's out, we're going to see a lot more Gerald Everett.
Yeah, but my point
normally
is,
it's not. The tight end's not featured.
Yeah, and if you look at the Cincinnati Bengals, which O.P. Taylor comes directly from Sean McVay, They don't use the tight end at all. Everybody in
Yeah,
Cincinnati
Eifert's
is
been
wondering.
non-existent. This is the first year Eifert's been healthy in forever, and they're not using him.
Yeah, and Cesar Uzama is not a bad receiver, but they don't use him either. Another question. This is from a Cowboys fan, Jake. Will Dak Prescott become the league's highest paid player?
I think it depends on how he finishes the season and what he does in the playoffs. I think an NFC Championship game appearance, which means a divisional round win, locks him as the highest paid player in the league.
But what if it's
anything
games?
less, like if we see what he did in that 3-game stretch against the Saints, Jets, and Packers, I think it hurts him. I think Dak controls his own destiny, his own. He has a blank check, and his performance and where he goes is going to determine the amount that goes on that check.
All right, another question. Will Le'Veon Bell be traded?
Absolutely.
Where to?
Would it surprise you if he went back to Pittsburgh?
Yes.
Because they pushed heavily for him at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I think it would surprise me. I think the perfect fit for him is Kansas City.
Yeah, that's another good one. But I don't. The Jets don't. I don't see Le'Veon Bell there. And I said that right after Gase's comments in the offseason. I thought Bell would have. I didn't think he would make it out of this year, and that almost came true. They were trying to deal him at the deadline.
All right, I got another one for you. It's not a question because nobody else has asked one yet. But if you want to, at Grueling Truth, we actually have a call-in line that if I could remember the number, I'd give it out. I've got one for you. I believe this. I believe the next quarterback in Denver will be Cam Newton.
Fair.
And I think that because it's always next attempts to fix a quarterback. And I think it's the boldest attempt since the Peyton Manning. But I think Carolina will release Newton from the final year of his contract, saving $19.1 million in cap space. And I think that they'll take that money and apply it to Christian McCaffrey's new deal. And you've still got Kyle Allen under a rookie contract for a couple years.
Yep.
So to me, this makes sense that Peyton Manning will end up being a Denver Bronco.
Yeah, Denver or Tampa Bay if Winston doesn't end up back there. But, Denver is a really good spot. But can Denver get out from under Flacco's deal? I don't know what the structure was. Sometimes those type of deals you can get out of really easily in the second year.
You never know. Old Joe may want to get out of there. And I bet that deal, because remember, they drafted Drew Lock, who's been hurt late in the first round or second round, somewhere around there. And I would think that they structured a deal with Flacco for him to be the starter for a year and the Lock to back him up and then Lock to take over the second year. So I would think that most of that money is already taken care of on this year. I don't know that to be true, but
right. No,
that's what would make sense to me.
What if, who knows, but Brandon Allen.
I don't think we've seen enough on him yet.
No, but, they're going to get 8 more games to evaluate him.
Well, how about this one? You talked about Dak Prescott. Another one I was thinking about. Kirk Cousins will only have 1 year and $25 million left on the 3-year fully guaranteed contract he signed with the Vikings a couple of years ago. What do you think maybe if Cousins, same thing as Prescott, if he gets Minnesota to a championship game, I think it's possible Kirk Cousins becomes the highest paid quarterback in the NFL.
That's a good point.
I think he's kind of like Dak. I mean, whoever goes farther in the playoffs gets the biggest contract.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But we know it's not going to be Kirk Cousins.
We don't know.
We already know that.
We don't know that. We know it's not going to be Dak Prescott because Dak Prescott's never had a signature win in the playoffs.
But at least he's had them in the regular season.
No, but nobody cares about the regular season. The other thing I find interesting,
coming into this season, Kirk Cousins' record versus winning teams is 5-25.
Yeah, and
1-6 against
Dak
Dallas.
Prescott is
13, 23, and 2 on the road.
Yeah, Dak Prescott is like
1-6.
in 17 or
Like,
18.
you remember how you said that? Well, what is Kirk Cousins going to do? He was with the Redskins. Well, last season with the Vikings, he was 1-6 against teams with a winning record.
Yeah, because that team was not very good last year.
Oh,
But they
same
weren't. The
personnel.
offense, no, it's not. And you
Similar
know
personnel.
it's not. No, there was no
You have
Dalvin
a
Cook.
healthier Dalvin Cook. That's
they
it.
had no running game last year. Their offensive line was even worse than it is now, and the defense
Murray
was bad. And they did not use Latavius Murray the way that the Saints have. And the other thing is this. The Saints are also rolling with one of the 3 best offensive lines in football, which is going to make Latavius Murray look a lot better. So, what I want to know is this. Zeke signed that huge contract, and I think the Panthers, this is why I think Cam Newton's not long for there, even if Kyle Allen busts the rest of the season, because Christian McCaffrey is almost in the exact situation with the Panthers that Ezekiel Elliott and the Cowboys found themselves in this past summer. So, and it's even worse here because if Christian McCaffrey holds out, you're the Patriots or Panthers. You kind of got to give him whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, that's you would have. You have to pay him more than Zeke.
Yeah, because he's better. And even Zeke said that Christian McCaffrey was having a better season than
I
him.
just think they're 2 different types of players. I think they're both good at what they do.
I believe that also.
Christian McCaffrey's a better home run hitter. Zeke is a better, put his shoulder down. And,
but this is the thing.
Like Christian McCaffrey, he'll get you 1, 3, 5, will lose 2, and then he'll hit a 75-yard touchdown. Whereas Zeke, 2, 3, 5, 6, 8, he'll get you to that second level of defense, but he's not going to make the safety miss 9 times out of 10.
Yeah, which means Christian McCaffrey is more valuable. I mean, you win games with big plays.
Who do you trust to get you 1 yard, Zeke or McCaffrey?
I would
1 yard.
Honestly, I would trust either one.
Fair, that's fair.
Because I think this: they're both the kind of guy that's going to give up life and limb for that 1 yard. And Christian McCaffrey, if a guy busts in the backfield right in front of him, hell, he may be able to jump, cut, and still get that yard. I mean, I would take either one of them. I mean, I don't really think there's a difference between the two. I just think that Christian McCaffrey can do a little bit more. And the explosiveness, the home run hitter, it's kind of like baseball. You got a guy that is a career 330 hitter. You get the other guy that's a 290 hitter, but the 290 hitter hits 52 home runs a year, and the 330 guy hits 20. Oh, the guy that's getting the most money usually is the guy hitting 290 with the 52 home runs. Because it's really hard to find a guy that can take it the distance at any time. And we see what it did for the Raiders offense to have a guy that was similar to that can bust out a big run here or there.
Right.
So I think another thing is I think we'll see the Browns in the offseason trade for Trent Williams.
If the Redskins want to give him up, I mean,
I don't think the Redskins have a choice because I don't think Trent Williams wants to be there.
No, he doesn't. And he's made it evident he doesn't want to be there now. But they won't they had options to trade him, and they won't. They just refuse.
Yeah, and I still think Andy Dalton becomes the quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
Anything's better than what they have now.
Well, I think this. You could go to Cam Newton route or to Jameis Winston route possibly if he's there, or Brady or Rivers, but those are pipe dreams. And also I think that would necessitate completely getting rid of Trubisky. I think that you're probably not getting Teddy Bridgewater unless they promise him the starting job. And I don't think Dalton is a thrilling pick. But I think he's the pick that makes the most sense for what Chicago needs. Because I think Chicago needs to not just cut bait with Trubisky after a couple of years, especially after they traded up.
They don't have to because he's on his rookie deal for another year or two, right? At least another. And plus the club option. So.
But And I think another one in a move that was supposed to happen earlier this season, I think the Patriots will lose their, Nick Caserio, who will become the Texans general manager. He's friends with Bill O'Brien. And this was something that the Patriots got pissed off about and blocked it in the offseason. And
Yeah, I remember
Caserio's contract is up after this season. So there won't be anything Bill Belichick can do this time to keep his director of player personnel. And I know that Belichick probably makes all the final decisions. But Caserio, if he's a player personnel guy there, he's done a hell of a job with Bill Belichick. So even if he wasn't the one making the moves, he's been around Bill Belichick when he was making these moves,
Yes.
which makes him really valuable.
Well, there's been other Belichick proteges to go on to have successful front office careers.
Look at the 94, 95 Browns. Hell, almost everybody there ended up in a front office somewhere doing stuff.
Right.
And Nick Saban wasn't a bad assistant coach. He turned into a decent head coach in college.
Yeah, great.
Okay, how about this one? We get this one from Jack. Looks like he's in New York. Eli Manning will retire as a Giant. True or false?
True.
I believe so too. Because who's going to bring him in right now?
Where's he going? Is right.
Yeah. I mean, who's going to take a chance on him?
We'll see how the offseason plays out, because right now we're assuming that Trubisky and Cam and Marcus Mariota and Joe, we're assuming vacancies, but more, maybe only 2 jobs are open. But if there are multiple jobs open, possibly Eli gets a shot, but I think it takes a lot.
All right. How about this one for you? Do you think, and this is not from anybody but me, do you think the NFL...
I mean, after what the Cowboys front seven did to Daniel Jones might go back to North Carolina or wherever the hell he came from.
He would have already went back, because everybody's front seven does that to his offensive line.
It's different. Dallas is scarier.
No, they're not. All right. Do you think the league will get rid of pass interference replay review?
Yes.
I think they will, too. I think they just did it because
the numbers are in the tank.
Well, I mean, the numbers are – I was watching because the Cowboys got a great call, which continued their game and helped them beat the Giants. And I'm not saying that because it's the Cowboys beating the Giants, because I've seen this a lot. And you see calls that are definitely pass interference, and the call stands. So the NFL, unless it is something that is so bad –
conspiracy to where maybe they want to try to make keep the any kind of conspiracy theory here.
Yeah. I mean, the conspiracy theory is this. The NFL wants to control a lot of these games and how they turn out. I think that's been something that you can look through history and see is true. I mean, it seems to me like the team that gets the most calls is the Green Bay Packers. Correct? I mean, come on, how many Packer games in the history? Dallas Cowboys, unless they're playing the Green Bay Packers. The Pittsburgh Steelers get 90% of all calls. Those are the big 3, marketing-wise and fan-wise, to make money for the NFL. And I'll bring this back to Super Bowl 23. There was a guy that worked on a Frito-Lay truck, was at the video store that I was at looking for a movie. And this is the week before the Super Bowl, and he knew I was a Bengals season ticket holder. And he's like, "Are you going to Miami for the Super Bowl?" And I said, probably. He said, "It's a waste of money." He said, "You look back at the Super Bowl, and the team that wins is usually the team with the biggest fan base that brings in the most merchandise if you win the Super Bowl." And when you look at it today, you'll get an exception here or there, but those exceptions are like where Seattle beats Denver, but they beat them so bad, nothing could have been done to change that.
Yeah.
The Pittsburgh Super Bowl 40 in Detroit against Seahawks. That game was fixed. There's no officiating crew that is that bad. They got Jerome Bettis at home in Detroit playing for the Super Bowl, and 99% of that crowd was Pittsburgh Steelers fans. They're going to sell a lot more merchandise, and if you watch that game, there's so many questionable calls that aren't even really questionable that the Steelers got that it just makes you wonder. And when you look at the pass interference replay rule, number one, it's by definition a judgment call, even in slow motion. And I think I saw that 5 calls out of like 60 have been overturned this year. So the NFL is going out of their way to make sure they're not overturning anything just to make it so this can go back to the way it used to be. I mean, I've seen this so much that I'm thinking that championship game, they would have just upheld the no call on the pass interference.
Yeah. No, I mean, I get you can make a conspiracy theory out of a lot with that.
Well, this is the thing. What's the conspiracy theory? Is the conspiracy theory that, or is the conspiracy theory
I think
that the NFL is fixing
wants to
stuff?
protect their referees.
I think the NFL wants to protect who wins a lot of these games, Anthony.
Come on. I don't know.
How many times?
I like to think that there is still integrity in the game.
How about this? There isn't. There cannot be integrity in the game when you can't take care of your old retired players, where you've got guys running around that are beating the hell out of women, pulling guns on people, and they're still allowed to play, as long as they're a really good player. So once again, what's the conspiracy theory? Is the conspiracy theory that this is not going on and everything's on the up and up, or that it may not be on the up and up? Because let's face it, this is a big corporation. It was tax exempt till a few years ago. They do whatever they got to do to protect the shield. You know, last year, I don't think it's any coincidence that you had a Los Angeles team in the first or second biggest market in the country who gets the call to keep New Orleans out of the Super Bowl to go play New England.
I mean, fair points.
You know, you look back at all the other bad calls. You know, the 1979 AFC Championship game, Houston-Pittsburgh. You know, the Renfro touchdown in the back of the end zone.
The Dez catch in Green Bay a couple years ago. He caught it.
Hey, and the week before that, Calvin Johnson, Detroit-Dallas. What's the bigger market? What sells the most? So it worked out for Dallas in the wild card, and then it backfired on them when they played the real America's team, which I don't believe for a second, because I can't stand the Green Bay Packers just because of the way they're treated. And the Green Bay Packers, almost every year you can find a couple games where stuff like that happens. Because it's good for the NFL to have the Green Bay Packers in there. And I think the Chicago Bears would get more help if they could ever find a quarterback. But let's face it, the last really good quarterback that the Chicago Bears had was Sid Luckman in the 1940s.
Ooh.
Really, it is. I mean, if I ask you who's the greatest quarterback in Chicago Bears history, who would you say?
I mean, you really can't. I mean, Jim McMahon won the Super Bowl, but that wasn't his, that was Walter Payton in the defense.
Yeah, and this is the thing. If you look at their numbers, Sid Luckman is the only great quarterback the Bears have ever had.
You know it's bad when Jay Cutler is in a conversation as a top 5 quarterback of your franchise.
And Rex Grossman. Rex Grossman got him to the Super Bowl.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah, but Grossman got him to the Super Bowl.
Oof. Didn't they have Bubby Brister or...
No, that was...
Steelers?
Yeah. And then Bubby finished up his career backing up Super Bowl 32 with the Denver Broncos. So he got a Super Bowl ring. Because that's the one where John Elway, instead of taking the last snap and taking a knee, actually brought Bubby in to take the last snap so he could say he played in the Super Bowl.
Oh, good for him. What a guy.
Yeah, until he became a drunken, bad GM. Well, it's just true. So I'm not too worried about it. All right, anything else we want to discuss?
No, I think we got it all.
All right, and if anybody could come up with a great Chicago Bear quarterback, there really is none. It's Sid Luckman, and that's it. Damn, I thought the Bengals had it rough. All right, guys, we're going to wrap it up. Anthony, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can follow me on Twitter at The Real NFL Guru. You can follow my show at The FF Face Off. You can find us on all of the top social media and podcast platforms, and we will be going live today at around 5:30 on YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and Twitch, covering the early games on the Week 10 slate.
All right, guys, and you can hear me and Anthony every day at noon. Tomorrow we'll be up to preview Week 10 Sunday games, where we'll get to pick the Dallas-Minnesota game on Sunday night. And just so you know, on the NFL Pick'em show last night, I picked the Cowboys.
You should.
Well, the Adam Thielen not being there, I think, is a huge loss.
No, not Kirk Cousins' track record against the Cowboys.
No, I would think that
primetime games.
I would think Adam Thielen and a lack of an offensive line is what's going to get them.
No, the Thielen, as a Cowboys fan, as strictly coming through a fan's perspective, to me, like if Thielen was in the game, I'd be a lot more worried.
Well, the thing is this. I mean, now you can really sick that offensive line on him, and you can double Diggs, and somebody else has got to beat you, which the only guy I could think of there is Kyle Rudolph, who's not a big play tight end. He's just more of a, consistent get you first down guys. So I think they could take Diggs away in that game. They're going to win that game, and it doesn't matter what Kirk Cousins does. But I can tell you this, if Kirk Cousins does win that game without Adam Thielen, then you'll have to be quiet forever.
Maybe.
You'll have to. It's a rule, because I said so. All right, and I can mute you whenever I want, remember. But, all right, guys. Also, remember, at 3 o'clock Eastern today, me and Cole Hanna will be on with the Indiana Football Weekly Show to talk about last week's win against Northwestern. The Hoosiers are now 7-2. I never thought I would ever say that about Indiana football. All right, we're going to wrap it up. I want to remind you that you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcast Addict. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So for Anthony Cervino, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.